Happy last Wednesday. Hello, everyone. Happy last Wednesday in the month of February 2025, and welcome on board to another edition of Midweek Symposium. I'm your girl, Shiwadulu, your one and only Sunshine, and I am your anchor for today's program. Please, our God help us today. I'm sure we all had a wonderful day at work today. And welcome, Adebukola. Please put in the chat box your name and where you are joining us from so that we can get to know each other better. Yes, because our topic of today has to do with inclusion. So today we are looking at inclusive leadership and the HR role in driving organizational change. Yes. So let's drive this change. And before I read the profile of our guest, I would want her to turn on her video so that we can see her face and put a face to the name. Omonye, good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
All right. I want you to turn on your video so they can see the face as I read the profile.
When you can see me.
All right, I can see you now. Welcome on board. Okay, good evening, everyone. Once again, we have Omonye in the building to help us to learn more today. Omonye is a woman resource professional who is leveraging extensive years of experience. She's a graduate of economics from the University of Lagos, and she's a certified senior professional human resource international. When you talk about SPHRI, that's Omonye, by Human Resources Certification Institute. And she's also an associate member of CIPM. She is a CIPM. And also, she has certified soft skills professional, CSSP, by Applied Program Training, Dallas, Texas, US. We Nigerian people. Okay. Also, she holds Scrum Fundamental Certification by Scrum Study. She began her professional career as an HR intern at House of Tara International, then worked as an executive assistant in a real estate company. Omonye joined the banking sector, starting with UBA as a banking operations executive, covering customer service and financial transactions supervision, a role she handled to supervisory level for almost 5 years before transitioning into human resources. She described herself as HR transition story as one of grace, grit, and growth. That's GGG. A story she shares with those who feel stuck in their careers, looking for career fulfillment. She also worked as the human resource business partner support, covering IT, InfoSec, back office operations, and customer experience center. From this experience, she is known as an astute tech HRBP, closing hard-to-fill tech roles and managing diverse tech talents and business leaders. She currently works with Nova Bank as the bank's human capital management business partner and lead talent acquisition and HR operations. She's overseeing the end-to-end talent management and HR business partnering. Notable projects she has handled are revamping the organization structure, spearheading the graduate training program project, facilitating a leadership training program for the bank's senior staff members, amongst others achievements. Given a passion for career development and promoting good work, she founded Careers Hive. She is known by this quote: "Be a talent, do good work, the gains are yours for keeps." Welcome on board, Omonye. But before Omonye says anything, we would like to have our opening speech from our very own TA, Temitope Aloba. Sir, you have the floor.
No, let's just welcome her. I mean, you already read that. It's okay. I understand the damage control that you are trying to do. But Omonye, it's nice to have you. I have no doubt that we are going to have a very fantastic session with you today. By the way, it's good to note that Omonye once a very active volunteer on HRwithTA platform, and we are very glad to have you today. So growth is possible. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so can I start?
Yeah, Maya, you have the floor now.
Great. Good evening again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. It's Wednesday evening. Some of us are already at home. Some of us are still in the office. Some of us are perhaps en route. So it's a pleasure to have you join us this evening. Please, PSA, public service announcement. I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the tips, right? But it's important that I share from my own point of view, based on my experience, my interaction with senior management, my interaction with employees, and even candidates in my experience so far, both as an HR professional and a professional that has done different things. And I've seen how changes affect organizations, both positively and otherwise, how people perceive changes. Okay, so this is me just saying that I would, this training is also to hear from you, to share tips and pointers, but then again, just share my screen and share with you what I have put together. But trust me, I'm here to also learn from you based on your experience and how HR professionals can drive organizational change, inclusive leadership and collaboration. So permit me to share my screen. But it would be nice to also know where you are tuned in from. Please let me know when you can see my screen. Please let me know when you can see my screen. Hello? Sorry, can anyone
Not
hear
yet,
me?
we can't see your screen. Okay.
Okay, what about now?
Yeah, we can see your screen now.
We can see your screen now, yeah.
Great. Great, I'll just put this on slideshow so that we can go through it. So it'd be nice to see from the chat box who you are, what you do, and where you're tuned in from. So we know that we have a diverse audience today, because inclusion is talking about inclusion, diversity, equity, belonging. So it would be nice to know that we just don't have HR professionals on the call. I know some of my friends are here and not everybody is an HR professional. So it'd be nice to know who you are, what you do, and where you're tuning from. Also, what's your expectation from this training today? So my topic is inclusive leadership, the role of HR in driving organizational change. Anyone would say, why is it HR's role to drive organizational change? HR is one partner to growth, transformation, to change management. I'll put you through the word of inclusive leadership, the impact of inclusive leadership in the workplace. Who are inclusive leaders? When you see some certain traits, you can decide or determine if this leader is an inclusive leader or otherwise. And we'll also look at, define inclusive leadership. We'll look at organizational change and management. We'll look at the role of HR in organizational change. Where does HR come in to ensure that there is the perceived change or the expected change is what is being done. We'll look at the practical strategies, initiatives of how to drive this change. Call to action. It's not just learning about inclusive leadership or the role of HR in driving inclusive leadership or organizational change. What is it in it for us? What are the things we have to take back to say, okay, what are we doing? What are we going to do differently in our organizations? And not just as an HR professional, even as a professional in your organization, in your space, in your unit, in your team. What are the things you can implement to ensure that, there's inclusive leadership and the organizational change is felt, your impact in the organization is felt. We're going to take some questions and then we'll encourage ourselves to drive inclusive leadership and organizational success. All right, so this is me. When the anchor was reading my profile, I'm like, okay, I've actually come a long way. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be your host, your trainer, and your facilitator today. So my HR journey is a very interesting one, just like the anchor mentioned. It's a story of grace, of grit and growth. And there was also change in my own career as well. So I'll touch a bit on that and, see how, even as an individual, how changes can also happen for you, right? Because these things are intertwined. There's no organizational change without individual change, okay? So let's dive right in. So we're going to define inclusive leadership. You can, do me a favor in the chat box, just tell me what inclusive leadership is or what it means to you. When you say leadership is inclusive, what does it mean to you? So it'd be nice to see some of those definitions in the chat box. I don't know if we can read some. Tia, can we take some definitions in the chat box, or should just continue?
Sure, it's fine.
Great. So can we have some definitions? Can we have some meanings? Can we read out? I'm on slideshow, so I'm not seeing the chat box. I appreciate if we can read one or two comment from our participants this evening, what inclusive leadership means to them.
All right, guys, so let's bring it up. What is inclusive
leadership? Let's have it. Do we have any comment yet?
Not yet.
Okay. All right. So I'll just go right ahead. Inclusive leadership. It's actually a leadership style that values and includes a variety of perspectives and background. Inclusive leaders encourage collaboration and communication with all team members. So when you say leadership is inclusive, it means it values a wide range of perspective, of backgrounds, of people, okay? And it's a leadership style that encourages collaboration because you have different people in your team and each person are not the same. A is different from B is different from C. You have the gender spread, you have the demographics, okay, you have people with different academic backgrounds, different values, different beliefs, different culture. So inclusive leadership also encourages diversity, encourages inclusion, sense of belonging, which, there's this bold concept around DEIB, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So inclusive leaders tend to encourage collaboration and communication with all team members. They don't say their words or their words are power, and they are not open to feedback from other people. So when a leader is inclusive, when you say you have inclusive leadership, you can see the image on the slide. In and exclusive. So we're looking at inclusive leadership. Inclusive leadership is a management style that values and leverages diversity to create an environment where all team members feel respected. I need us to pay attention to the words that are bolded. Okay. And leverages inclusive leadership is a leadership style that values and leverages diversity to create an environment where all team members feel respected, valued, and able to contribute to their best work. So inclusive leadership allows team members to bring their best selves to work. In the in my introduction, we talked about the quote I love so much. In fact, everybody in my space know that quote: "Be a talent, do good work, begins are yours for keep." But I'm going to take out that talent, be a talent, do good work. So an inclusive leader or inclusive leadership encourages collaboration such that the employees or the team members feel that they are valued, feel that they are bringing something to the table, and they are able to bring their best selves to work. Okay. Inclusive leadership is the capacity to manage and lead a heterogeneous group of people efficiently while respecting their uniqueness in an empathetic and bias-free way. So there is something that is common when you talk about inclusion. It is the word bias. Let's to be honest, each of us have our biases, right? You could have it as cultural bias, religious bias, different biases. They exist with us. So inclusive leadership is actually a conscious and deliberate leadership style. Because of our cultural background, we have those beliefs that has grown with us from childhood to adulthood, and we bring ourselves as such to the workplaces. And then a leader recognizes that there are diversity in the space. Okay, so how am I meeting each person at their own uniqueness, respecting that you are unique as an individual, but how do we bring this uniqueness to bear and ensure that we're not infringing on anybody's rights or anybody's belief, but we are doing everything to ensure that people bring their best selves to work. We are empathetic to people. We're extending grace to people while still driving performance and meeting organizational goals and objectives. So when you say that someone is an inclusive leader, what are those critical traits you would see? An inclusive leader is very self-aware, because you have to know thyself before you are able to have social awareness and relationship management, which is the four quadrants of emotional intelligence. So an inclusive leader is highly emotionally intelligent. And the person is self-aware. The person understands and is aware of his own biases and which comes from a place of self-awareness and self-management, right? And without awareness, without management of thyself or one or self, able to manage other people, able to build relationships. So without self-awareness, the person also is conscious of the biases, because as an individual, I just mentioned that we have our individual biases, right? So an inclusive leader, or even an inclusive person or an inclusive professional is self-aware and is also aware of the biases that they have. Okay. Humility. So this may sound like, okay, so why are you bringing this concept of humility? But whilst I was doing my research on this topic, every article, every blog post, has these things, and humility keeps coming up. Okay. Because as an inclusive leader, you acknowledge your own limitation, you acknowledge your own inadequacies, and you are open to learning from other people. You are not saying you are the Lord, you are the authority. Yes, you may be an authority, you may be a subject matter expert, but you also know that you have there's something to learn, right? And you are able to acknowledge that you don't know it all, right? And you are open to other people's ideas, other people's opinions. You don't come to meetings and just bang the table and say this is how we'll do it, and you are not taking feedback from people. Empathy. You cannot talk about emotional intelligence without talking about empathy. They understand and share the feelings of others, fostering a supportive environment. Okay. Cultural intelligence. Yes, we talked about cultural beliefs. We talked about biases based on where we grew up from, and we're bringing ourselves to work. So you aside emotional intelligence, you're also cultural intelligent. You're aware of and respect cultural differences, and you know that the way you do things might not be the way Mr. B or Mr. A does things. So you are conscious of that, and you use that consciousness to ensure that you are fostering a collaborative and supportive work environment, so that at the end of the day, the organization is happy and the employees are happy. Collaboration. An inclusive leader encourages teamwork and ensure that all voices are heard. Nobody is shut down at meetings. People's opinions are encouraged and they are taken into consideration. but even you know that at the end of the day, you do what is best for the organization as well as for the people. They are committed to diversity. They are dedicated to promoting diversity and inclusion within their teams and organization. And hey, let's not get it twisted that you're an inclusive leader or we have inclusive leadership or someone is an inclusive leader doesn't mean the person is not performance driven. The person, you could see a substance of laissez-faire, but they are highly performance driven. You know why? They know themselves. They are self-aware. They are aware of the biases that they have. They are aware of other people. They respect other people's opinion. And they understand individuals. They understand what makes this other person tick. They understand those people's strength. They understand their weaknesses. And with that, they are able to, coin policies, procedures, or strategies to ensure that everybody is bringing their best selves to work. So which is why you see that organizations with inclusive cultures are 2 times as likely to meet or exceed financial targets. So inclusive leadership also has a dotted line to performance. Okay, the culture is likely to be high performing because you're encouraging people to bring their best selves to work. People are seeing themselves as themselves. You are also trying to check some excesses if it's impacting on other people, because obviously you're bounded by your policies and your procedures, right? They are 6 times more likely to be innovative and agile because they are open to people's opinion. They are not stuck in their ways to say, this is how we do things. I'm the boss here, I'm the leader, I'm the boss here, I'm your manager. And I agree this thing at the board level or their strategic level. So your opinions are not encouraged or they are not needed, right? They are 8 times more likely to achieve better business outcomes. So you can see that inclusive leadership has a dotted line to performance. Okay. Inclusive environment at work. Inclusive leadership is crucial in today's diverse and globalized world, as it helps organizations to adapt to diverse markets, customers, ideas, and talents. We see, for us as HR professionals, we're increasingly seeing diversity in the workplace in terms of workplace demographics. So we're seeing the Gen X, we're seeing the Gen Y, we're seeing the millennials, we're seeing the Gen Zs, we're seeing the Gen Alpha, right? So inclusive environment at work promotes trust. There's common purpose, meaningful work. There's cultural competence. There's appreciation of individual attribute. There's equitable reward and recognition. There is access to opportunity. There's sense of belonging, and there's respect. So with this, you understand that the world is global, the world is diverse, and you are also trying to ensure that your organization play in these spaces. So you're able to adapt to diverse markets, to customers, ideas, and talent. Inclusive leadership is an authentic leadership style that is focused on authenticity and establish a culture of diversity and inclusion in the workplace. Authenticity, individuality, recognizing that people are different, people come from different backgrounds. So with this, you respect people, you trust them enough to bring their best selves to work, and you are encouraging them to do meaningful work because there's common purpose. And if you understand that there's diversity in your workplace, you are also able to create policies that ensure that you pay people fair compensation and people are compensated enough for the work that they do. All right. Companies that are home to an inclusive leadership style are better at innovation. They gain more market share, are more competitive in the hunt for top talent, and outperform less diverse competitors. And this is a research according to Deloitte in 2019. Now let's look at the word of organizational change and management. We talked about the rapid changes in the workplace, advert in technology advancement, shift in market dynamism, customer taste, workforce demographics. Things are changing rapidly. There's advert of AI now, artificial intelligence. In fact, it's not something that we should be debating if it's here or not. That's come to stay, and people are leveraging this to see how they can, be competitive in the marketplace, both for customers, for talent, and for innovation. So there are types of organizational change. You could have structural change, technological change, unplanned change, remedial change, strategic change, people-centric change. Okay, so what is organizational change? It refers to the actions a company takes to alter a significant component of its organization, such as its culture, internal processes, technology, and infrastructure. Changes can be driven by various factors, including new leadership. Yes, so you have a set of leaders that perhaps were changed by at board level, or maybe their tenure expired, and then you have a new leader emerge. And we know that there are different leadership style. People drive their teams differently, but at the end of the day, to achieve organizational goals and objectives, right? So you could see a bit of changes in your processes, right, in your policies, in your procedure, and even in the people. You could see some deployments here and there. It is seen because of the change in leaders. Okay, there could also be shifts in market conditions, maybe driven by economic conditions. We see the variation in FX in recent times, and we see how that change is impacting on consumer behavior. Okay, we're seeing advancements in technology. We talked about AI, all right, or even changes in regulation. Case in point, in my sector, banking, we are regulated by CBN, and you just one day you see a policy change or a regulation change, and that in a way alters your flow. And you have to, which we talked about agility, we talked about resilience, we talked about adaptability, and that's what inclusive leadership allows for it. So inclusive leadership, organizational change goes hand in hand, because there is what openness to diversity and to people's points. In an era marked by rapid technological advancement, changing workforce demographics. Gen Zs, maybe don't like when we put them on the spot, and there's a whole lot of balls around Gen Zs. But hey, these people, they've come to stay. In fact, they are even changing the workplace narrative, and it's forcing organizations to also change something to ensure that we are adaptable to the growing workforce demographics, shifting market dynamics, and the need for organizational agility. Companies are propelled to undergo transformative changes to stay competitive. We are looked at. There could be unplanned change, which could be a function of a regulation from the government, which you cannot fight. So, at different steps in change management process, first of all, is to identify the need for change. Okay, you develop a change management plan. You identify stakeholders. You can't do change management without stakeholders. You communicate the change. You provide training and support, because you could have people who are averse to change, people who are stuck in their old ways of doing things. So you have to identify that there will be resistance to change. But what do? Identify stakeholders, both at the management level and the employee level. Who are your change agents? Who are your change actors? Who are the people who you can work with to drive this change? You address resistance, yes, by way of training, by way of collaboration, engagement. And then you also need to know that if this change is beneficial to the organization, and on the long term, you have people who are still resisting change, you also want to make the tough decision, okay? And then you implement the change, you evaluate if there are modifications to be made, you identify that, you implement that. Obviously, you know that you have to engage your stakeholders, and then you sustain the change, you modify as required. So change management is the process of planning, implementing, and sustaining changes within an organization. It involves preparing people and teams for change and helping them adapt to new processes and systems. But there are underlying principles for change management. Organizational change requires individual change. The word organization came from organisms. I have always had this in my head. So it means there are different parts that make up that, right? So organizations are made of people. They are made of individuals. So if you say organizational change, that's in the air. Who are the people that make up an organization? Organization is not just made up of processes alone or technology. It's also made up of people. So it requires individuals to also change. But inclusive leadership is telling us that we need to also identify and be conscious of people's differences. right? And see how we can collaborate with them, how we can manage them, how we are aware of them, and see how we can ensure that everybody bring their best selves to work. And if that is happening, change management will be easy to, to seal. Because with inclusive leadership, you are also charging that individual change when you've made them see the need for a change. Organizational outcomes are the result of individual change. So when you have people with differences, right, but speaking in one voice, because you have somebody at the center that is driving this change, that is driving this inclusion, that is recognizing this diversity and ensure that everybody's on the same page, even though you know that you would have what resistance. All right. Change management is a framework for managing people through changes. Okay. Now let's see the role of HR in driving organizational change. So you can see the old way and new way. So for the HR professionals in the house, we're looking to the different roles in HR. Some organizations have it differs from organization to organization, largely based on the organizational size, type, sector, but there are basic functions in HR that you must have, right? Sometimes some organizations will just have the recruitment, you have the comp and then you have comp and performance management, and you have training. But we know that HR has also evolved from being personnel to being strategic business partners. Okay, so when HR drives organizational change, it means that human resources, whether the department or the professionals or the people, plays a critical role in facilitating and managing significant shifts. Sorry, I need to take this away. Apologies. Sorry. Let me know if you can still see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Things have.
I think you need to go back a bit.
Yes, I need to. Sorry. Okay. Here we have it. Okay. So we said plays a critical role in facilitating and managing significant shifts within an organization by focusing on the human aspect of change, ensuring employees are supported, informed, and prepared to adapt to new processes, technologies, or strategies through communication, training, and addressing potential outcomes throughout the transition processes. HR professionals are no longer confined to administrative tasks. We all know this. In the now of work, HR is a strategic and a part of the business, okay? They are strategic partners in shaping the future of the organization. So as change agents, HR leaders collaborate with executives to design and implement transformational initiatives that drive growth, foster innovation, and enhance organizational resilience. We see the HR leader role in change management. This could also be HR professionals, okay? An active member of a change management team. I don't think an organization wants to go through a change phase without involving human resources, because the people that will drive the change are being managed by HR, right? An HR leader is a coach to a manager who is leading change. So the change could also maybe happen, for instance, in IT department. Okay, you could also be a partner to that line manager, to that business leader, to ensure that there is collaboration and there is alignment with the need for change. Provide training on change management to senders, helping to build a process the organization follows for change management, okay, leading the change in the human resources function. So we talked about that organizational change requires individual change. So it also means that as an HR department, we are the ones leading the change. So the change must start from us. Okay, so the HR leader is also leading the change within the HR team. Organizational change fundamentally is about people. We've established that they are to do the things different ways. They are to do things in different ways, change their behaviors, and transform their working patterns. These are all topics that are core to HR professionals and fundamental to what HR could and should be doing. So the role of HR in driving organizational change is not open for discussion, really, or to justify why HR should be involved in organizational change, because we've established in the change management principle that organizational change requires individual change, and individuals are being managed by HR in the organization. So these are the things that are called to HR professionals. So it's even a no-brainer that HR should be involved in organizational change and even be at the forefront of driving it. Okay, with obviously management support. HR teams bring high levels of empathy and a deep understanding of human psychology to the table. They comprehend how people think, act, and make decisions, crucial insight for implementing lasting change. So you can see that all said and done, HR is very pivotal to organizational change, driving change management and ensuring that this is aligned to the goals and objectives of the business. What are the practical ways that HR drive organizational change? One way is strategic planning and vision alignment. So what does strategic planning means? It means that you've looked at the organization as an entity, as a body, and then you evaluate the knowledge, the skills and abilities, the capabilities that the organization have, and say, okay, what are the current capabilities? What are the current competencies? What are the current knowledge, skills, and abilities that we have, which may be through way of competency framework management? What are the competencies? What are the knowledge, skills, abilities that are needed in the future for us to drive this change? What are the identified gaps? How then do we fill this gap? So this sits with HR. So HR is involved because you are the ones doing the workforce planning. You are the ones driving competency framework management. You are the ones doing the skills audits. And then you are ensuring that this alignment is, this planning, this development is aligning to the vision of the organization. And there's this popular saying that culture eats strategy for breakfast. We'll get to that. So you've strategically made this plan, current competencies, future competencies, gaps, and then you recommend or suggest strategies to close these gaps because there is need for change. You've identified the need for change. Remember our change management process. One is identify the need for change. And then you said, okay, because you are going to be dealing with people, there is need for you to implement change management strategies, which you've discussed initially, and culture transformation. Because we also established that organizational change requires people or individual change. So you need to be having those conversations around what maybe you want to do like a culture audit, employing the change management strategy and processes. And then because you've identified the gaps that you have in terms of maybe talent, skills, abilities, you then deploy talent management and development strategies. Okay, which could be by way of talent acquisition. What are the people? Who are the people? Okay, what current staff talent do we have? What are our future needs, talent needs? How do we develop the people that we have now to ensure that this change is achieved with the current people that we need? How do we relook our recruitment and talent acquisition process? How do we diversify our talent pool to ensure that we are getting the right mix of people? And this also is centered around inclusive leadership, recognizing diversity, recognizing different backgrounds, but recognizing different cultural beliefs, and ensuring that people are bringing their best selves to work, which comes from a place of self-awareness, awareness of biases, empathy, humility, trust, and driving performance. And then you can't talk about organizational leadership, change or inclusive leadership without the leaders themselves. So there is need, you can't also assume that the leaders that we have know what it is or know what it takes to drive this change. So there is need to develop and train these leaders. And you can't also drive this without getting the buy-in of those leaders. So you also need to deploy framework strategies to ensure that you are also developing the leaders, you are training your leaders, training them to be able to manage this current workforce and even the workforce that you are bringing, and ensuring that everybody's aligned. And then you communicate. Communication employee engagement, we said that we would have resistance to change, remember? And it's fine. But you've also identified your change agents, your change actors, people who have bought into your idea. You've identified your stakeholders, and you cannot identify stakeholders without communicating and engaging them. So on a continuous basis, you are communicating, you are engaging employees. All those are working together, right? You can see the center of this to drive organizational change. And it is the role of HR to do that, because change is centered around people. We want people to change, to embrace this new process, this new technology. We want to manage our people differently. We want to train them differently. We want to align workforce to our vision. So you're engaging people. Okay, you've deployed a new process. You want people to leave their old ways of doing this process and embrace the old ways. You want people to leverage AI, right? You have your partner with Microsoft, you have co-pilots, you're encouraging people to leverage on these tools to make their works effective. They are people. So HR is at the center of that change. So HR is driving that change, but then you've identified your leaders, you identify your management, your change agents, your stakeholders in all of this conversation. So we're going to go very granular now. Whilst I'm not going to read all that on the slide, but I'll just take key points. Is that in all of this, it's important to involve employees early, because you see that the resistance most times is even from the employees themselves, because the leaders have done their strategy sessions and they've coined this new strategy, this need for change. And because you also know that there will be a bit of resistance. So you need to involve employees in the change process so that you can foster a sense of ownership and reduce resistance. What can you do? Solicit ideas and feedback about the proposed change. You can have focus group sessions, you can have town hall meetings, you can do like poll surveys, just solicit feedback. You can even, those change agents and actors you've identified can form a bit of task force or committees, that involve these employees themselves and give them the assignment to plan. Remember, we said strategic planning in one of the ways HR, who says it has to be HR alone? You can, involve employees too and give them that sense of ownership, make them see as though they're the ones that are owning this and driving this, right? And then we can't talk about change without recognizing and rewarding people. What we can do is you've identified your milestones and your achievements through the change process. Provide incentives. Everybody has a price. I don't know if I'm communicating. So an organization that has articulated the employer value proposition to say, because we know how those change would impact on our bottom line, we would recognize people who are involved in this process. Okay, and it doesn't have to be monetary. Public recognition is one way. Okay, there's something we're currently doing in my organization. We recently transitioned from a merchant bank to a commercial bank. It's a significant change. Okay, so but you will see that most people still know us as merchant bank. So what do we have to do? Campaign. We have to be in people's faces. So on a regular basis, we're putting posts, about, we've done media rounds, we've done adverts on newspapers, we've done social media posts, and then we're encouraging people to also post on their socials, right? Let people know, let your network know that Nova Bank is now a Nova Bank, commercial bank, and not Nova Merchant Bank. And then you see that the brand and comms team are actually tracking people, and then they are recognizing people on our platforms. Their team asks this, asks that, thank you, we see you, keep it up. And then the person feels like, oh, they recognize me. And you can even go the extra mile to say, okay, give them lunch vouchers, just to recognize, because these people are your stakeholders in the change management process. And you have to promote a positive culture. And it comes from ensuring that there's alignment with leadership, with managers and employees. You are encouraging collaboration. And remember, we talked about the critical trait of inclusive leadership, which is what? Collaboration. Okay, ensure that And that is why there is need to train leaders. You would assume that the leaders know what they are doing. Most of them don't, because it's also a change for them. So what would you do? Train, organize, ask me anything, focus group sessions, carry people along, and let them model this positive attitude towards change. How will it be that in a team, the line managers are the ones even telling their team members that they don't understand what these people are even doing, they don't understand. And because they're looking up to you, right? They're like, if my boss can be saying this, then what am I, So it's important as HR professionals, we are carrying our stakeholders along, and we are encouraging collaboration, we're encouraging positive environment. And then when you get feedback on strained relationship between subordinates and their line managers, you are intervening, you're seeing how you can salvage the situation. And then, who says leaders don't even need coaching themselves? Some of them came into leadership because they are high performance, but they may not be ready for leadership roles. So it's important for HR to, come in and ensure that everybody is aligned to that goal or the need for change. Provide clear direction. Okay, clearly articulate why we need to have this change. Okay, this comes from regular engagement and all that, to ensure that there's no ambiguity and there's no, people know what it is. It is clear on how you want to put it on people's faces, how you want to do it. It is clear. And this also comes from engaging with your stakeholders, ensuring that the communication is one, everybody's speaking from the same voice. All right. What are the tips? So for HR professionals, this might look like a very difficult task, maybe because of the peculiarity of your environment, which I said organizations are different. The way it's happening in my organization may be different from the way it's happening in your organization. But you should remember that you're an HR professional, and it is your duty as an HR professional to ensure that you are helping to drive that change. Yes, you may be met with no, but how you present your case with facts and figures would go a long way. Because we know that there are biases, to be honest, we see bias in recruitment processes. We see biases even stated in our job description. Sometimes I see some job adverts, I'm like, okay, what are these people thinking? And because there are regulations around some biases, around some discrimination, you see the organization putting out disclaimer, we are gender, this and that and that. So it's important to engage in training. We talked about those traits of inclusive leaders. We said self-awareness. So it's important to also look inward, self-reflect, and see what are those gaps that you have. If you see that you are prone to this kind of bias, how do you engage in training that will help you change that, bias that you hold on to your chest? So engage in bias training, seek diverse perspective, engage in trainings like this, join communities, attend webinars, conferences, speak to people in your space, share ideas. I never can tell. You may just hear something from somebody and that feedback is helping you solve a problem at your organization. Commit to continuous learning. And I think this applies to everybody, whether you're an HR professional or not. Continuous learning is important. When I was told to take on this topic, yes, I know inclusive leadership. Yeah, I know how HR can drive organizational change because I've been involved in multiple change processes, both in my current organization and my past lives. But then again, I found something very important, very, very interesting when I was researching and learning about it. And that's part of what I'm saying to us today. So cultivate an inclusive culture, develop inclusive policies, promote open communication, celebrate diversity. All those international days are one way we can also celebrate diversity. I know in Nigeria we celebrate Africa Day. We celebrate International Women's Day, which is coming up next week. We celebrate International Men's Day and different things. That's where you can also cultivate an inclusive culture. Let people represent their culture, their beliefs in your workspaces. And some people are even for Nigerian companies, some people are even soliciting or advocating for us to dress in our African attire to work instead of knotting ties, and dressing all corporate. But I know we'll get to that stage one day. Diverse hiring practices. Because when you've evaluated your current man needs and your future workforce needs, and then you see the gap, you have to ensure that your recruitment channels or platforms or sources is broadened so that you can bring in a large pool of people. And you realize that even for us in talent acquisition, realize that your source of hire, even though you've done your matrix and you see that this particular source of hire is giving you your conversion rates in from that source of hire is high, you also realize that you have to broaden your talent pool so you can get people from different backgrounds. We recently rounded off our graduate training program, and when I was analyzing the data of the participants, it's so interesting to see different analytics around gender, around cost of study, around background, tribe, and we saw that diversity in class. We saw how people are not thinking alike, because they attended different schools, they studied different courses, they're from different environments. You even had people who studied abroad coming into Nigeria to work. And you see the richness of that diversity, okay? And bias-free JDs, I talked about how you see job description, and then even though some people, because of the need, some people would say gender required female for gender balance, they know the context of the organization, so it is needed for them to state that. But then again, you see some job description and then you'll be like, what are these people thinking about? You also want to have a diverse interview panel. In fact, in my organization, one person cannot even run an interview panel because the person has his own bias, right? The person has his own nuances. So you want to have a pool, a panel where one panel member A is seen differently from panel member B, and they're able to bring that differences and make the decision that is right for the organization. So please ensure that you have diverse interview panels, interviewers in your panel, in your recruitment process. Okay, you're also defining your job description to encourage the diversity. You're broadening your recruitment channels as well. So another way is you promote opportunities for growth, mentorship. You identify people who have acted this diversity thing, this inclusive leadership thing, they've acted, right? They've done a good work on themselves, and you've identified them to say, okay, can they be mentors to people who are struggling? And you can't do organizational change without training and development. And it's important that we have a clear career path transparency. Let people know that there's a clear career path. If I start on those notes, what are the opportunities available for me in this organization? How are you helping me to achieve that? And in all of this, there's a saying that what does not get measured doesn't get done. Okay, so you want to also set clear goals for the need for this change. You want to set SMART goals, which is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. You want to also conduct regular surveys to ensure, are we making progress? Do we need to make modifications to this plan? Okay, and then you report on progress. You want to carry your stakeholders along and see how you can, which this measurement and accountability, you also want to involve analytics. You can't talk about change management or driving organizational change without doing analytics. So HR professionals, we need to get familiar with data analytics. HRwithTA, you may also want to help us with training on data analysis as HR professionals. So we see what we can analyze and how we can present the result of this analysis to our stakeholders and for them to buy into our initiative or our strategy. Okay. Navigating organizational change is a complex process, no doubt, okay, that requires careful. HR plays a critical role in facilitating smooth transitions and maintaining employee morale. By involving employees early, providing necessary training, offering support, and promoting a positive culture, HR can help organizations not only survive, but thrive during periods of change. Effective change management ensures that the organization remains agile, resilient, and ready to seize new opportunities. On that note, I say thank you. I don't know if I made sense in the last how many minutes have I been speaking, but the summary of my training today is that you cannot talk about organizational change without involving HR professionals, without talking about HR. HR is at the center of the change. But there are some personal work that has to be done, even as an individual. You have to be self-aware. So emotional intelligence is, it's not negotiable. It's something we need to keep earning. Self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship management. And we are aware of those biases. We are conscious of those biases, and we try consciously, deliberately to ensure that we don't bring those biases to play, right? And then we're fostering communication. We are open to continuous learning. We're seen as strategic by, reporting on metrics, providing measurability and accountability to different stakeholders. We're engaging people, and we're also encouraging and recognizing and rewarding those people who are open to change and driving the change along with us. And even those who are resisting change, we're also seeing how we can help them, bring them up to speed, or make decisions to ensure that they are not dragging everybody back. So on that note, I hope I'm able to do justice to this topic. Like I said, this is me just sharing my thoughts. I know we have professionals, seasoned professionals on the call, so I'm open to also hearing from you on inclusive leadership and how HR can drive organizational change. So at this point, I'm going to take questions. If you have questions, please, you can raise up your hand electrically, or you can drop them on the chat box. Thank you.
Wow, let's give our very own presenter a round of applause virtually. Please send in your round of applause, reactions, round of applause. Thank you, Omonye. Questions. If you have any question, kindly signify by raising your hand, and then I'm going to take that. Or you can also drop it in the chat box, and I'll definitely read that out.
Okay,
so we have this definition that came in when you started, which is on inclusive leadership. This is from Adebukola Oniyide. She said, inclusive leadership refers to a leadership style that aims to create an environment where all people, regardless of their differences, feel accepted, valued, and supported.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. It summarizes what I've been saying. Questions.
Okay, so Olayemi said, this is so beautiful. Many thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate
also,
that.
Obele said, I celebrate you, my dear sister. Well delivered.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Do we have any questions? Kindly.
Interesting. Let's have your questions. Let's have your questions.
Wait, isn't that we all understood what Omonye said and we don't have anything to ask her? At least there should be somebody to say something. Ask questions.
Can people unmute their mics and speak?
Yes, they can. Okay. Bolanle said it's such a brilliant presentation.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
I think with this topic, it also works out with Omonye's quote that be a talent, do good work, the gains are yours for keeps. We have HRM organization. I wouldn't say HRM in the sense that I'm not going to call them human resource managers, but probably I would call them His Royal Majesty or Our Royal Majesty, whereby they are the ones who dish out authority. They don't believe with teamwork. They don't believe that you need to engage in teamwork. They don't believe that anybody can say something that they would really, really appreciate or something that would work out for them. They need to be the one on board, say things, do things, and it works out that way for them. And when Omonye mentioned Okay. And when Omonye mentioned diversity regarding interview panel, I think that's really a good one because we have people that during interview they say whatever they say, that is their that is what they feel. Oh, I'm the one saying things. So I'd like to ask this question. From your experience, what are the key characteristics of an inclusive leader, and how can HR professionals support the development of those traits within the organizations?
All right. So I mentioned that the trait you would see that can decipher if an individual is an inclusive leader. We talked about self-awareness, we talked about awareness of bias, we talked about empathy, cultural intelligence, we talked about performance, we talked about collaboration. So these are amongst other traits that you would identify to see that this individual is inclusive or this leader is an inclusive leader. So how you can encourage that as an HR professional, from these things can also be learned. I talked about continuous learning, is that you implement training opportunities where this can be learned. You encourage open communication, and there is a clear direction that everybody sees and then they are carried along. Okay. Within teams, you would definitely get feedbacks on relationship between supervisors and subordinates. And from those feedback, by way of maybe surveys or focus group sessions, you can act on them and make a recommendation as an HR professional. Okay. So it's important that you identify who these leaders are, and these attributes are seen and they are visible, and one or two persons can actually attest to that. Those people can even be mentors to leaders who are struggling to be inclusive in the discharge of their duties, right? But then again, there has to be training intervention. We can't talk about these things without training. And then you encourage, you recognize, and you reward. And if there is need to maybe sanction, but that would be like an extreme case, depending on what the outcome of that is. But with this trait, you can identify an inclusive leader, and as an HR professional, you can also devise this means to ensure that you promote that in the organization. I don't know if that has answered your question.
Yes, it has. It has. Thank you very much, Omonye. Okay, I have this question from Oyin. Okay. Oyin says, in a situation where an HR is trying to go about the inclusive leadership strategies, and the stakeholders or directors aren't really bugging into the changes the HR is trying to make, what's the proper way to approach this situation, even after a consistent presentation and explanation regarding the changes has been made already?
Interesting. So, who is the owner of the change? Oni, who is the owner of the change, and to what end is this change going to achieve? What is the end goal of this change, and who is the owner of who has identified the need for the change? And we talked about change management process. I don't know. Sorry?
She said the employees actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're saying that all the leaders, the board of directors, the line managers, everybody are not bulging. If you can link that need for change to business performance, maybe they will listen to you. And I know I was expecting this question because in my HR career, I've seen instances like that. And then what you would see at the end of the day is you see people leaving that organization. You see attrition would be like the order of the day. Or you see people becoming disengaged and there's quiet quitting. Most times I also tell HR professionals, know when to also choose your battles. but it has to be seen that you've made move. And you've linked, while this change is important, you've linked the need for this change to a business performance. There is no business owner today that you would talk to about the need to have something, a process about people management, talent management, whatever it is, linking it to business, and they will not listen to you. So, which is why HR professionals must guard ourselves with analytics. We must be able to speak to the numbers. We must also be able to speak from the business angle. How is this data, with your data, with the feedback you've gotten, how are you presenting it to the board, to the HR to the directors, to the stakeholders, who you know are the ultimate decision makers? My dear, if you've done all these things and they are not bulging, and these issues are coming up, they are becoming much to even you as an HR professional. Like I said, you may also want to choose your battles and know when to shoot your sword, because at the end of the day, the impact would show on the business and the bottom line. You can't keep having your key talents going through some challenges, or there's need to do some changes, maybe salary review, or you need to have a positive culture, or there's need for training, and they are not bulging. Okay, with all the strategies that you have, they are not bulging. You've done your analysis, you've seen how this is going to impact on productivity, you've done all that, you've done your presentation. And I would even say, identify somebody in that board of directors to come to your side. I've heard this about, there's a word for it. Is it a sponsor? I don't think everyone will be speaking the same way. There will be one person that would, or that may see the need for the change. Bring that person to your side, which is your stakeholder. But if the case is everybody is not bulging, then you want to shield your sword and pick your battles. And maybe it's about time you take a bow. But it must be seen and known that you did your best. And the data is there to show that we did our best. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Omonye. I would like to ask this. Can you share an example with us of how inclusive leadership has positively impacted organizational change? Because you mentioned the organizational change and personal change and being a change management. And at Global Bank, or in your past experience or other places you work?
Okay, I'll use my current organization because it's recent. So I mentioned we transitioned from a merchant bank to a commercial bank. It took a lot. So I'm seeing my colleague, okay, she has dropped. It took a lot from us in HR because the talent needs had increased. There's need to open new branches. There's need for us to do some changes to processes, technology, and a whole lot. Okay. And the first thing is there was approval by the board of directors to say, okay, they gain approval for the bank to go commercial. And then we started the process of seeking approval from our regulator, CBN. But you know that the way we run as a merchant bank cannot be the same way we ran, or the same way we would run as a commercial bank. So there was need to have a stakeholder management or stakeholders management. And because some of us had come from environments where we had worked in a commercial bank, so we kind of understood what is required. But this is an organization in its own right, which is why I said there's context, organizational context. So you have to also put organizational context in whatever it is you're proposing. Okay. So we had different people say, this is how we did it this is how we did it here, this is how we did it there, this is how we did. What is the way we want to do it in this organization? Okay. So we had different perspective, different opinions on how we should drive this process. At the end of the day, we brought all to the table. What is the way what are the ways we want to do it in this organization? Yes, we've seen how you did it in organization A, company B, How are we coining our own way? without flouting policy, without flouting regulation, because my industry is highly regulated. Any small thing, you'll be slammed by the CBN. So we identified those different perspectives, brought it to book, and then we coined, which comes from a place of strategic planning. We coined what we want to do. We coined a strategy for 5 years, and to say, based on this different perspective, we want to be this, we want to be that. This is the strategy we're going to run for the next 5 years as a commercial bank, factoring these different perspectives, this different opinion, these different sides to running a commercial bank, a strategy. And remember that everybody was involved. We had town hall meetings, we had focus group meetings, there were communication, line managers were speaking to their team members. It was an everyday music that you wake somebody up in the bank, oh yes, we're transitioning. And then for each teams, what are the things you need to do to drive this change? Case in point, in HR, we had to increase recruitment. So I had conversations with my team members, see, our recruitment efforts will change slightly because of XYZ. The recruitment activities would increase. So we need to brace up for the tax ahead. So how do we strategize so that there's no burnout? We're not, even though it could be stressful sometimes, how do we? So we planned as a team, and everybody's on board. Everybody's speaking with the same voice in view of the vision and mission of the bank, of being a commercial bank. There were changes in technology. We had to develop new products. So you had to also expand your talent pool, create new roles. You identify there is need to have guys in customer experience, product managers developing products for you, your retail product. So it was a whole lot of activity. And then you are training people, because the competencies that they came into the organization with as a merchant bank, yes, they still have it, but the competencies required to run a commercial bank is slightly different, or is even like it's enhanced. You have to have enhanced KSA. So there was need to have training at different strata, both leadership training, how to manage employees at different organizational workplace demographics or multi-generational workforce. You have to do on the job, you have to do technical training, you have to do soft skill training at different levels. Do you understand? And then you are getting feedback. You are holding meetings to say, okay, how are we progressing on this strategy? There's a vision, there's a strategy, and then you have goals, team directives or team objectives, and then at team level you are tracking. Even within your unit, you're also tracking. There's collaboration. People are sharing their opinion. I will not say because I'm the team lead for talent acquisition, my word stands. No. Today something happened that my team member had to object to it. And then I said, okay, could you share why you think this should be this way? And then the person gave a very formidable feedback. I'm like, oh, wow, your feedback is actually superior than mine. Thank you for making me see this in this perspective. And then we adopted it. And the results is already showing. So inclusive leadership, you're trusting people enough to bring their best selves to work. You hire these people. For Christ's sake, you hired them now. So you didn't just go to the road and pick anybody you saw on the road to come to your organization. You went through a thorough recruitment process. So why would you bring them into your organization and don't trust them to do the work? So you have to be able to have some level of trust, and they have to also trust the organization to ensure that I'm doing my bit, the organization is doing their bit. And then we also realize that we don't know it all. There's continuous learning. I mentioned training. And then you are humble enough to know that you don't know it all. So you have to seek knowledge, both in your organization and maybe joining platforms like HRwithTA to learn from other HR professionals who have also gone through this process. And then you are measuring progress. Okay, you say that you want to resource this, you want to reduce addition by this, you want to increase engagement by this level, you want to achieve 80% training achievement, all those metrics that you've defined in the strategic planning. You're measuring progress. How are we doing bit by bit? Do we have weekly goals? Do we have monthly goals, quarterly goals, half-year goals, yearly goals? And then performance management is also coming because so this thing, which is why in my presentation I talked about the different functions of HR. They come in together. And then how are you rewarding people? Are you over laboring them? You transition from this to this, and then your compensation is still the same thing. Your benefit has not changed. No, you have to also relook it and rejig it to ensure that people are doing, because now the work has increased. Imagine, as a merchant bank, my workforce is about 80 something. Now we're going to 180, almost 200 plus, and before the end of the year, we may be 400. So people are doing much more. My team are doing much more. So you need to also recognize me once in a while, acknowledge me, comment me the same way with the teams. So all these are inclusive leadership to drive organizational change. And I said HR is at the forefront. Whilst you do it as a departmental level, as HR level, you also are driving it in different teams. How are you encouraging the line managers to be collaborative? Whilst also driving performance. I said inclusive leadership doesn't mean that you're not driving performance. In fact, we saw statistics in my presentation where an inclusive workplace is 8 times more likely to achieve business results. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Omonye. I know while you're answering that question, the question I asked now, you actually mentioned 1 or 2 metrics and key performance indicator. But all the same, I want you to elaborate more on it. What are the metrics? What are the KPIs you feel or you know that HR leaders should track to ensure accountability? We need to this transparency, like you being a team leader, and also you know that teamwork makes the work easier.
Yeah.
And for you to also hear other people. Yes. And also looking ahead, what are the trends that you think will shape the future of inclusive leadership, and how can HR professionals stay ahead of the curve in driving these changes?
Great. Okay, so metrics. The reason why I didn't put metrics per se in my presentation is because there are, like I said, there are different types of changes. I mentioned there are different types of changes in my presentation. So the metrics you would use, the measures you want to be tracking will be a function of the type of change that the organization is facing. So if you say technological change, it means you want to make your processes more efficient, right? You want to develop new products, digital products. So you want to be measuring uptime. You want to be measuring product efficiency, transaction rates. You want to transaction error rates. You want to, so like I said, it's a function of the type of change. If it is a people-centric change, I don't know if I can share my slide. If it's a people-centric change, it means it will be, the metrics have to be people-centered. So if the challenge is you are dealing with attrition, okay, because of low engagement levels, because you've done your findings and you see that people are disgruntled because of salary levels, or there is no training, or the engagement level is low, or some different reasons, then you would have people-centric measures or metric. You want to measure attrition rate. You want to measure your conversion rate in terms of recruitment, your turnover rate. You want to measure learning and development rate. You want to, for your talent acquisition or your recruitment, you want to look at source of hire. You want to look at conversion rate. You want to look at time to fill. If you say you want to close this gap in 2 weeks, that is a metric. So time to fill, if you resource the role less than 2 weeks, that means it's an efficient or effective process. So different metrics, but like I said, I can't just be saying metrics. Metrics are a function of the type of change the organization is driving. If it's financial change, maybe you've changed your budget for the year or your financial targets for the year. So you want to be looking at customer acquisition, right? Customer satisfaction score. You want to be looking at rates of resolution, because you know that customers are the ones that will bring the business. You want to look at onboarding of customers, depending on what it is. You want to look at sales rates. You want to look at revenue generation. So metrics are a function of the type of change the organization is looking to achieve. Okay, so what is the change you want to see? Then you identify the metrics that you use to measure the effectiveness of the change management process. So the trends that HR professionals should look ahead. I touched on one, which is the advent of AI. Okay. AI is helping organizations manage change process by helping them develop strategies, helping them relook their processes, reimagine how they do work. Okay, so you also want to look at, which is a function of technological advancement. The trend would also be changes in regulation. Okay, also a function of the environment or the sector that the organization is playing in. The changes in market dynamism, changing consumer behavior, changing in employee behavior. I studied economics. You'll be hearing consumer behavior, but there's also employee behavior, which is, for example, we know that pre-COVID, COVID and post-COVID are different eras. A lot have changed. People are relooking their work structure, their work systems. People were forced to do things that they never thought it could happen. And in fact, some organizations have adopted that, which I'm talking about flexible working system, right? So, but some organizations say, you know what, because of the kind of sector you are playing in, you cannot afford to have all of our staff work from home, right? Because it's highly regulated. There are regulators that come part-time and your regulators don't work remotely. So it's external factors and internal factors. Okay, so you look at trend. We say trend is mostly external to the organization, but you also have to be conscious of the internal trend as well. So which is why you have to also measure some things. You have your HR data part-time and you're collaborating with leaders, line managers to also understand what's happening in their teams so that you're not oblivious of the changes. But by and large, if you look at trends, it will be changes or advancements in technological changes, which is AI largely, changes in market dynamism, economic factors, government regulations, because those are the things that will inform how your organization responds to change and ensure that you're competitive and you're staying agile and resilient. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Omonye. I think this should be the last question. I have this last question. Your growth in the banking industry seems to be rapid. Can you tell us how did your volunteering at HRwithTA in particular, how has it helped you or prepared you for leadership responsibilities and your role as HR in this leading bank?
You said my growth thing. I beg to differ, right?
Okay.
That my growth in bank, well,
you were not in the banking industry before now, and then
yeah. So okay. So let me just touch a bit on my career, but I will give you an abbreviated version because that is like a training session on its own. So shortly after school, I did a short internship with HRwithTA. It's in my profile, and I studied economics from Unilag. I served, and then I worked in a real estate firm as an executive assistant. I did some other jobs by the side, and then I joined the banking industry. So I've only worked in 2 banks. So which is why I said when you said that my growth, or maybe because of my role, the changes in my role, that could have informed why you said so. So that is still valid. But I didn't start off in human resources. Shortly after banking school, I started in banking operations. So if you typically go to a branch, a UBA branch in the Art of Idumota Balogun market, you'd most likely have seen a slim, fair lady at the customer service desk, attending to customers and smiling and telling them, welcome to UBA, how may I help you today? And then trying to resolve their problems. And you could also find time where customers will shout at her or even almost, lay their hands on her. And yeah, so I did that for some time and I became a supervisor while at it. But I was tired, right? I I wasn't fulfilled anymore. But mind you, I was doing good work. I've always been a proponent of doing good work, even though where you are is you are dissatisfied. Because the work is helping to pay the bills, at least in the short term. Career, I did a training one time about finding career fulfillment. It's a journey, it's not a destination. So I had that consciousness in me, and I knew that for me to transition, because I've always loved human resources, I said I interned. I said I'm registered for CIPM, started doing that whilst I was still a customer service officer and even a team lead. I passed my CIPM. And I think after passing CIPM was when I knew of HR groups, and then I joined. I was following HR leaders. TA was one of them, and then I joined trainings. I was always there, and I also put myself out there by volunteering. TA mentioned it in the beginning of the session, and I started applying for HR jobs outside my organization. I wasn't getting offers. I wasn't getting called. And I'm like, okay, so what am I not doing right? I've gotten my CIPM. Why can't they take me? So I realized that I needed help, which comes from a place of humility. I realized I needed help. So I sought for help by way of a career coach who walked me through the journey, the self-discovery journey. I had to understand my why. All this, but I never knew my why. I never knew why I wanted to transition. I just wanted to do HR. HR is one HR professional. Oh, that's an HR person. You dress fine. They respect you. So all those superficial things were my why. As at the time I finished my CIPM, and then going to CIPM induction program, I saw everybody looking up pink. I'm like, I must do this thing. So my why was just superficial. It wasn't. There was no substance.
Omonye, are you still there?
All right, sure. I feel Omonye is probably having network issue.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think
Okay, she has logged out.
gone out.
Okay, so it took me out. I don't know what point you missed me. I think I was talking about the transferable skills I had in customer service and working in banking
your why
operations.
was superficial.
Oh, really?
You
I've
go
been
for
talking for a while.
CIPM induction. You see the way they are
Yeah,
dressed, all
yes. So I
clean.
saw that HR professionals looking so good. I'm like, this is what I want to do. But it was just elementary. There was no substance. So the career coaching took me through that process of articulating my why. Okay. And seeing how my values align with HR profession. And then I was conscious of that. Even my CV was speaking to it. I was able to identify the transferable skills that I had in banking operations because I had become a branch operations manager, managing a branch, right? I've spoken to the most difficult person you can ever think of in this life. Even I was physically assaulted whilst I was doing that job, but I didn't mind. I was still doing good work. So, and then the way I was speaking about why I want to become an HR professional changed. So when the opportunity came in my organization at that time that they were looking for somebody to join, someone who was just hired as HR business partner for tech. So, and again, people around me knew that I wanted to be an HR professional. So my network, they knew. Even in the groups I belong to, I'm always putting up, I want to transition and all that. But most times when I see those messages, I like to private chat them and say, what is the work? What work have you done on yourself? So that when the opportunities come, you're able to grab them. Trust me, the very first interview I did after all this process, I got it. And then I transitioned within my organization to become an HR business partner. Normally, if somebody is transitioning to human resources, you do maybe HR operations, call candidates, do all that. No, I became an HR business partner. And because of that philosophy of doing good work, it was tough, but I gave it all out. I did all I could do, right? Doing good work, learning and doing good work. And then we changed HR business partnering in UBA. We were the focal point, myself and my line manager at that time, God bless her. We were a focal point of HR business partnering. Everything we did was implemented by the bank, to the extent that other HR business partners were told to use our blueprint for anything that we're going to do. Till date, all the work we've done is still speaking. The people, the network I built today came from that experience. So when you work for a while, I did close to 7-8 years in UBA. When you work for a while, you know that it's time for you to leave. But it took me 6 years to transition. So I tell people that what you have right now, it's a gift from God. What you are seeking will come to you, but you have to still do what you're doing right now. Do it with all your might, okay? And then I moved into Novo Bank whilst we're a merchant bank, and then with my role, we transitioned to commercial banking. I have some of my colleagues on the call. So now I'm currently leading the team. I'm the strategic HR partner for the bank. So, but like I said, it was a journey. Right, which is in my profile, you say journey of growth, grace, and grit. It was a journey of growth, it was a journey of grace by God and grace of people, and grit because sometimes there were times that it was tough. Even to now, that sometimes I'm like, okay, but I'm encouraged because I'm passionate about what I do. So that coaching exposed me to my why, and that's the why that is keeping me to now. So your question about volunteering, because I volunteer in HRwithTA, most times when we have webinars, sometimes I'll be reading HRwithTA vision and mission, and I'm reading people's profile, and I'm like, can't be in this community, and I'm struggling. Do you understand? So I ensure that I participate. I join trainings. I speak to seniors. Sometimes there was even a time TA was my reference in one of the things I applied for. So it gave me the opportunity to know some people. Be on the call when we have this our guest speaker events that we do, where admin that help to take questions, so it also helped with my networking. I'm able to network with people, able to learn from people. So it's important that, and even now I may not be in that space of active as such because of the nature of my work right now. Is a whole lot right now, but as much as I can, I still volunteer. I still try to, which is why when this opportunity came, I said no, even though I know it's always hard for me to do anything during the week. I'm still at the office at this time. But I said no, I must do it because I have gained a lot from HRwithTA by way of volunteering. Okay, so it helped me both in whilst I had a career coach, what I learned from HRwithTA also impacted in my HR journey, which is the growth we're seeing, and we're still going to grow. And but we've not gotten there yet. There's still heights to attain, but we're not bad either. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Omonye. Wow. It is mind-blowing. It is I'm sure we've learned one thing or the other. Can we get our reactions in the chat box? Reactions. A round of applause for Omonye because she really did justice to the questions, to the presentation, to everything. She has really shown that her passion and career development, and she has this joy to always promote good work. And these are quotes. I'm sure it will not leave any one of us. We should always remember, according to Omonye, she would say, be a talent, do good work, the gains are yours for keeps. As you can see, the gains that she's keeping right now. Thank you very much, Omonye. Thank you very much. See, over to you.
Okay. Well, awesome, wonderful. What a wonderful moderation by you, Adeloye Seun. Well done. And to my very beautiful and ever energetic Omonye, I'm so proud. I'm so
Thank
happy.
you so
It's
much,
like
Tia.
I've just been blushing, all through your presentation, and
Thank you.
I'm truly, truly, truly happy for you. And on behalf
Thank you
of
so much,
HR
sir.
with TA, you used to be the one presenting this thing,
I know, right? So it's a honor
So,
to have you
so
present this.
yeah. So
I'm
this
grateful.
certificate
Thank
is
you so much.
presented to Omonye Braimah in recognition of your contribution to the HR body of learning and HRwithTA platform. One of the good things that I've been so happy about for you is the fact that I've seen you on a couple of platforms, and I'm like, oh wow, this is great, right?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you see, the truth is, I like your story, how you wrap it up when you answer the last question from Sheung. There is
Yeah,
nobody that does come from nowhere,
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. The deeper your root, the longer you stay and you keep growing. So, but
yeah.
sometimes it just looks as if this person just became this. But behind
I
that,
know, right?
yeah, behind that sudden, what looks like a sudden growth to some people is a lot of work, a lot of digging, a lot of,
True,
a
true,
lot of commitment, a lot of showing up,
true,
even when it is not convenient. And I
true.
think that is what happened to you. And we're so grateful for you. And we pray that God will continue to bless you, God will continue to lift you,
Amen,
and and
amen,
um, and God will continue to enable you to do good
amen.
work and be a preacher of good work as you have done tonight. And so, everyone,
Amen.
we say thank you for joining. A couple of us have left, but it's still good. Um, I mean, we envisage, just 1 hour, 1.5 hour session, but here we
Yeah,
are with Omonye for almost 2 hours, 3 hours now, right? Yeah, almost 2 hours. So yeah, we're still within but it's fine. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mrs. Ogeshi. Thank you, Mercy. Thank you, Abi Adeniji. Precious Ilekoma. I'm not seeing some names.
Yeah, thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
precious.
Thank you, Blessing. I had to the latest,
Bride.
bride in the whole wide world. Thank you for joining, Amara Agbara. Thank you, Oluwatosin Ade Omonye Braimah and T Lemon. Thank you so much. Okay, Blessing, I
Hi,
can see you are
Trini.
still in honeymoon, Abi. Don't worry, enjoy your honeymoon. I'm sure it's because of Omonye you are here. Yeah, and I guess Omonye you met Blessing on HRwithTA platform, right?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, interesting. And this is how it is. So this is what the only thing that will bring blessing Ahato in this particular kind of season and, the kind of weather she's exposed to is only a good, it's only good friendship and
Yes.
someone you so much value. And I'm so happy to see all of this thing happening for both of you, and even blessing herself as become, madam now, very grown, doing well in her career, and I'm so happy for all of you. So thank you, everyone. I don't know, Sharon, can you just share our group link in case some of them want to, some people are here who wants to join the platform. It would be nice that we have this link, shared with them. So let me just see if I can lay my hand on one. If you want to join the HRwithTA community, there is a link you have to, like a form you have to complete, and somebody will verify and bring you straight into the group. Yeah, so let me see if I can lay my hand on that. Otherwise, I will just have to drop my phone number, or Shion will drop her phone number, so that you can reach out to. And if you are here, courtesy Omonye, you can also as well reach out to Omonye. Omonye will pass the link down to you, and then you can be a part of the community. We show up here every Wednesday and every other Monday for my HR story, my HR journey session. And like she said, we also have a session we call guest speaker event where we bring in a couple of HR leaders and thought leadership experts to share with us on some relevant topics of chores, right? So connect with us on LinkedIn, connect with us on YouTube, HRwithTA on YouTube. You can visit that YouTube and listen to as many of the beautiful and wonderful sessions like we just had tonight on that YouTube platform. All right, so I can't see the link. I'll drop my phone number and 0814072144. Okay, thank you. To close, let me see if I can give you one song as usual. You know, we always do this to close this session. Okay.
You caught me by surprise. I had my own timeline. Thought my issue escaped your mind, but you caught me by surprise. Here you go again, showing up as spring.
My name is Munzir Dale. I'm a professor of electrical engineering and computer science at MIT. The partnership that we